Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be working on a wet-on-wet landscape. Um, as you can see, I am bringing in some water and a little bit of pigment just to get the base going. All I put in for pencil mark is a horizon line. Working wet on wet, I really don't usually have much of a direction as to the subject matter, except I'm doing a landscape, and trying to keep it as fluid as possible, hence using more water than normal. Keeping any white area that I want to preserve dry. So basically, coming in with a wash, but not the entire paper is wet, as you can see. I'm using a fan brush that's also helpful in trying to keep it as loose as possible. Using a little more pigment the further I go in, but just blending. This is where you pay attention to where the water and the pigment are moving while you're doing it, because it changes very fast and will run. Paper towels are good to have on hand to, dab onto it if it starts to flood in a certain area. Just drop my paintbrush. You see where the paint's starting to bleed purposely. I'm liking that effect where, because it's so wet, it just keeps, kind of meshing together, which is the look I'm going for. And as the piece goes on, I work drier and drier. This fan brush is primarily what I use for this one, and I'll often do that fanning left to right to keep that kind of fluid movement going in the piece, and it keeps it light. There goes my alizarin, not alizarin, my Payne's Gray, which I love. Kind of a stormy sky. It's really more of an exercise on wet here, just to play with the pigment. And again, I can't emphasize enough, keep a paper towel handy at all times, because you can attempt to pick up some of the pigment after you've laid it down, but it'll never go completely white, but you can at least tap it down. You see my strikes went vertical, and I can brush those out after. You notice how I'm coming in with a little more pigment. That means I'm working a little drier, fanning out as I go, keeping my foreground kind of plain, flipping it upside down, which I highly recommend for every painting. Also, be it that I'm left-handed, it's hard sometimes for me to reach over, especially when I'm doing a YouTube video. But it gives me a good eye as to what the piece is looking like, but also good for reaching. Always seem to be getting particles off the paper too. Going in with my blues, again very dry, and I'll keep stroking with the fan brush as I go, just to keep that look. Payne's Gray there. There goes the fan. Like I always do, I try to keep I know there's a horizon line, but you still want to introduce the background to the foreground in some way, just for continuity into the piece. The Payne's Gray gives a lot of depth to the piece. Now my sky getting a little bit muddy there, so I'm just dabbing it with my paper towel, and you see how that Doesn't make it completely white, but it helps. And I thought I was a little too harsh on the green down there, so I picked up a little bit. And also watching as I go to see where the dry spots are. On the bottom right, I notice a little pigment happening there that I didn't like, and I'll try to work that out at a later time with a brush. I'm going in with an opaque tan, which I like to use as an overbody sometimes, just to give that kind of smoky feel of the piece. And you notice in the sky, those white spots is just where I left the paper dry. And it's just, again, those happy accidents of where the white decided to be a cloud now. And then just, you know, kind of maneuvering the paint around, really. I'm going to leave the foreground kind of plain, soft, so the eye has a place to rest in the piece. Coming in with my sky again, just enhancing it a little bit, taking out some of the rough edges, doing my left to right strokes just to keep it soft. Always, I feel like I'm always dabbing. You notice how that picked up a little bit of the pigment on the foreground. I didn't like that. It got a little muddy, so. And I'm basically coming back in with water a lot of times just to move stuff around. Obviously, I have a green there, cad light green, but you know, water's a constant, hence the name watercolor, you know. Water's the primary source of this painting with a little bit of pigment in it, you know. And I'm just having fun with it. It's a playful piece. And again, just an exercise on keeping things loose. And then I'll look back at it after and say, what could I have done differently? Flip it upside down again, take a look-see. Soften the edges a little bit. You know, practice, practice. I keep saying that, but it's true. The more you paint, one, the more fun you'll have, but also the more you'll enjoy it and you'll get better at it. And they're not always wins. I mean, sometimes you look at a piece after and it's just didn't come out the way you thought. Sometimes I will come back to an old painting and just redo the whole thing. So now the bleeds up above, that kind of happened on their own. I'm exaggerating a little bit. I see a little hill line in the background too that I can play on. Getting out any marks. The one thing with watercolor is when it does dry, it's harder to get the pigment out. So whatever you can get out while it's still damp is best. And then I'm coming in with a lead pencil just to move stuff around. And another tool here, it's almost like a cotton ball, to just move the pigment, whatever you've got. Sometimes your finger, lead, pencil, whatever you have. And that's it, pretty much. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on wet. And if you like what I'm doing, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day and keep painting.